Hi there, I'm Andy Robertson, and this is Family Gamer TV. Welcome back to Family Gamer TV. This week I'm with Ryan and his family as we're going to be talking about Runescape. So, let me talk us through, how did you start playing Runescape in the first place?
I think it was with my friend who always seems to kind of try new things, but doesn't seem to commit to them very well. So I'm always left on my own. But he went once, "Hey Ryan, do you want to try playing Runescape with me and make a person together?" So normally I go, "Yeah, sure." And then we played through a bit and then he quit.
But you stuck with it?
Yeah, I stuck with it.
So what was it about RuneScape that you liked and you thought this is worth spending a bit more time on?
It was probably the way you kind of level up. It's quite interesting, like, I want to do this because like it looks cool, and then but there's quite a way to get to there. So
something in the game, what would be an example of something you wanted to level up so you could actually then go and do that?
One thing I remember is there's a thing called a canoe station where there's a tree next to a river and you cut it down, make a canoe, and then you can travel up the river to cities along there, which you needed a high level of wood cutting to do. So I had to spend quite a lot of time just cutting down trees to try and get high enough to go canoeing. Yes,
and this is the sort of the grinding that you hear about in the sort of massively multiplayer or just generally role-play games, where you will do a task over and over again to essentially level your player up, but you do that so that you can go back to the main game and then do things that you couldn't, and maybe you'd be stronger, maybe you could access areas that you couldn't, so in this case you could go up the river and actually see a new part of the game.
It was quite good to accept because there's so many different like levels, different types of levels you can level up, but there is a problem in that once you get to a certain amount, there's still loads of new stuff you can do, but you've got to be a member to do it.
Something that's nice about RuneScape to begin with is that it's free to start. So you have a really low barrier to entry because you can just play it on your browser, there's nothing to download, and you don't have to pay any fee. But then you do get to this point where to get the most out of the game, really, you need to become a member, and that gives you access to more stuff in the game. But so you did pay, and you thought it was worth doing that. So what did that give you, paying that bit of extra money?
It gave me quite a lot of new like levels. Like I could do construction, build my own house, and I could do hunting, and there was a lot of new areas that you can go to that were previously like restricted, and that was quite nice seeing like new places and seeing what quests they had. Like
for a new player, what do you think is about RuneScape that would be a better place, a better way to start maybe than jumping in straight to something like World of Warcraft?
Probably the most useful thing for free new players is the task guide that it gives you when you start. It's basically a long tutorial of getting you used to all the simple tasks and how to do a quest and how to mine some things, and it gives you useful hints on fishing and cooking. It just gives you a lot of information about everything you can do, so that you never get stuck and have to go and search online.
And I think that's something that RuneScape is really improved on as it's sort of evolved over the years. It's really made it a really streamlined process for new players, which is why I started playing it, and I don't play these sorts of games an awful lot, but I found it quite natural to pick up. I felt like I was progressing. I didn't hit sort of a wall of difficulty where I couldn't get any further, so I've been enjoying it as well. I haven't quite graduated onto World of Warcraft yet, but perhaps I'll do that at some later date. Welcome to my gaming surgery. This is the part in the show where I get to answer your questions about video games. Now, another game, or another type of game that you might not have heard of, is massively multiplayer online role-play games. Okay. Bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, well, that would be things like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yep. So you've seen it, played it?
Heard about it.
So what do you know about it?
Very little, except that it probably takes a large amount of time. Probably the biggest reason that stopped me kind of becoming more interested in that kind of game. I guess there's maybe the fighting thing I'm not sure about. And I had a couple of friends that used to kind of play with people across the other side of the world. So there'd be kind of weird body clock issues when you had to get up at 3 in the morning. Yeah.
Well, you've got key elements there. So a massively multiplayer online role-play game. You've got a few elements coming together, which you're ticking the boxes. So firstly, it's online. So it's a role play game that you play with thousands of other people. So it's multiplayer, but it's massively multiplayer because you're playing with an awful lot of people at the same time. So that's maybe a couple of thousand. Everyone logs on to the same server to play the same game.
Right.
And a particular game like World of Warcraft will have a number of servers, maybe hundreds of servers around the world, and you have the home server that you log in to play.
Right.
And so because of that, if you want to go on a raid or a mission with people you play with, then potentially if they're in another part of the country or another part of the world, then you need to get up at a certain time so that you're online playing at the same time as them.
Yeah, that would be fun to trying to fit that into family life.
It's not the most family friendly. Well, not for maybe the parents, and maybe not for younger people. But the reason I talk about that is because there's a new game that's sort of been rising in popularity in this genre called Runescape.
Right.
Now, this takes that massively multiplayer genre, but really simplifies it and brings together a number of different elements to make it much more accessible for younger players. It's still designed for a 12 plus audience. But they just make it simpler to play so that younger people can enjoy it as well.
Okay, that sounds good, because I think I tried Second Life for a while, but I just found it incredibly difficult to learn the right combination of keystrokes. So
you join and you're sort of in at the deep end. So something that Runescape does is it takes the player and puts them in a safe haven, a safe place where they can't get attacked by more powerful players, because that's often an issue. But also that it leads them through the missions and a starter set of missions to introduce them to the world, and also to sort of just get them started at how you play and how you exist in the world of RuneScape. Actually, that's intentional, and that's something which RuneScape is setting its stall out, saying, no, we're not trying to be World of Warcraft. We're for this younger audience, and we're going to start in a more simple way. Another way they do that is by saying you don't have to install a big piece of software onto your PC. You can play it from a browser. So once you've got your account and you've signed in, you can play it whether you're at home, whether you're at grandparents, or whether you're out and about. So it takes away that sort of barrier of entry, and it doesn't depend so heavily on the specification of your computer, because it's all relatively simple graphics, because it has to cope with the browser technology.
And you don't have to play it like for hours and hours on end.
Well, you could do, and all of these sort of massively multiplayer games have an aspect to them where, because they're all about people, and people are interesting, you get engaged in groups and communities, and it starts to mean something to you, which means that you would keep wanting to come back. I think that's where, the balance can get a bit off, because then you end up thinking, actually, I value this online community more than my actual real world.
They're as real as the real world. They're just real world on a computer. So how much does it cost?
Well, it's free to get started, so you can just go to your browser, you can download the elements that you need to. Onto your browser just so you can play it and you can explore. But if you want to access more content, then you do need to subscribe, and that's a few pounds a month. So, it's quite a low cost compared to other games, but there is a cost to it. And if you enjoy it and you want to carry on playing it, you are going to subscribe because you're going to want to access all the missions, and all that content.
Okay, so RuneScape, the name's saying to me kind of Lord of the Rings style, with dragons and that kind of business. Minotaurs,
dragons, dwarves. Okay. That's part of the attraction is that you're existing in that world. So there's a slightly, it's a darker edge because it's a 12 plus game, and so I think those players are attracted to something where there's a little bit more danger, something a bit more scary.
It sounds like it would make it much easier to get kind of involved and to actually play it in manageable chunks, so that you're not kind of losing a whole night's worth of sleep.
We'll get you trying it. I'll give it some more time as well. That's all we've got time for this week at Family Gamer TV, but we'll be back with more games soon.